happened yesterday, and Washington is reacting today to this decision.
Yeah, the news is reverberating all across Washington today. And it wasn't just the fact that President Biden issued a pardon to his son Hunter, but it was the fact that, as you just heard, this White House and the president directly were adamant about the fact that they were not going to do this. They were asked multiple times, whether it was Karine Jean-Pierre there from the podium or elsewhere, or whether it was President Biden directly, who was asked by journalists on more than one occasion whether he would pardon his son or even consider it. The answer was always an unshakable no. And yet, here we are now. So the president last night released a lengthy statement. We're going to read just part of it that describes the reasoning for how he came to this decision. He says here, quote, "For those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addiction, but paid them back subsequently with interest and penalties, are typically given non-criminal resolutions. It's clear Hunter was treated differently." And he went on to say, "No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out because he is my son." The president also went on to say in that statement that the charges only came forward after his political opponents on Capitol Hill instigated them. Again, that is the president's rationale for the decision, controversial decision that he made. Remember, Hunter was convicted of felony charges for lying on a gun permit. He was facing up to 16 months potentially in prison for that, although most legal experts say he likely was not going to get jail time. He also pleaded guilty to federal tax charges for falsifying records and for basically failing to file returns in the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars that he didn't pay. Ultimately, he paid that back, but he was facing another 17 years in federal prison if he ended up getting the max for that. Now, one reason, Nicole, this is getting so much pushback, it's not just the pardon, but it's the specific language that was in this pardon. Very unusual. President Biden didn't just say that he's pardoning his son for the specific crimes that he was convicted of and charged with. It says that he was pardoned for essentially anything that he has done over the last 10 years, whether there were charges or not. So if there were hypothetically more cases down the road, charges that had not yet been filed for something that Hunter had done in the last 10 years, that would have also been covered in this. We haven't really seen a pardon that was written like that since Richard Nixon's pardon decades ago by President Ford. So that piece in itself, obviously very controversial. You just add that on to what is already something that is really sending shockwaves through the country.
Yeah, so shockwaves, Joe, the wording, the contradiction. What kind of reaction are we seeing on both sides of the aisle?
So as you might expect, Republicans have pounced on this, many of them. We saw James Comer, for example, who has really led the investigation on Capitol Hill into the Biden family business dealings, basically call President Biden corrupt and a liar. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson also said something to the effect of President Biden has done irreparable damage to trust in the Justice Department. But what's more interesting to me anyway is the Democratic reaction, because a lot of Democrats are quiet, and there have been a trickle of a few that have started to criticize the president from his own party. I'm going to just point to one here. Governor Jared Polis of Colorado was really the first last night to come out saying, as a father, I understand President Biden's desire to help his son. But he went on to say he's disappointed that the president put his family ahead of the country, and it's a bad precedent that could be abused by later presidents and will tarnish his reputation. So really strong words there from an ally of President Biden. And since that statement went out, we've seen several other Democrats, both in the House and Senate, really critical of this decision.
All right, Joe Khalil live for us there in front of the White House. Thank you. Well,